Well, Ulysses, the 2024 BBWAA Hall of Fame ballot is out there. It's revealed. In fact, some writers have already cast their votes and publicly put them out there. So we figure let's give our Hall of Fame votes, although we don't have a vote technically, but let's have some fun with it, I suppose.
Yes, let's have some fun. We both did it. We haven't shared it just yet. We will live on the show. So let's hope for a good, friendly debate starting right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On Rays. You can also find us on X and Instagram and email us anytime, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Well, as we mentioned, the 2024 Hall of Fame ballot is out there. A couple months from now, on January 23rd, to be exact, the Baseball Writers Association of America, BBWAA, will announce the results of its 2024 Hall of Fame vote live from Cooperstown on MLB Network. And then the actual induction will take place in July in Cooperstown. And just a little bit more background here. The 2023 Hall of Fame class included Rays great, Tampa great, overall great, Fred McGriff, and Scott Rowland. Now, looking at this year's ballot, just going to run through the names real quickly before we dive into our takes, our votes, or what our quote-unquote would-be votes would be for. So new this year, debuting on the ballot in 2024 are the following: Jose Bautista, Adrian Beltré, Bartolo Colon, Adrian Gonzalez, Matt Holliday, Victor Martinez, Joe Mauer, Brandon Phillips, Jose Reyes, James Shields, Big Game James, Chase Utley, and David Wright. As a reminder, candidates remain on the BBWAA ballot for 10 years, provided they are not elected and they are named on at least 5% of all ballots cast each year. Now, the returnees to the ballot and adding to the ballot are Todd Helton, Billy Wagner, Andrew Jones, Gary Sheffield, Carlos Beltran, Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, Omar Vizquel, Andy Pettit, Bobby Abreu, Jimmy Rollins, Mark Burley, Francisco Rodriguez, and Torrey Hunter. So, with that out of the way, Ulysses, who are you voting for? Let's see your fancy, well thought out, and organized ballot here.
I don't know about fancy. I had some trouble there with the markup edit on my iPhone, but I tried to do my best. First, I did have a full ballot here. What? Actually, no, I did not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guys.
Oh, do you want to add another name to the list? You have 10 votes. Or are you just going to cast 9 this year?
I'm gonna cast 9. I know people might not like that. I think there's a 10th name out there. There's an 11th and a 12th, but I will explain my reasons for not picking them. Obviously, I think the biggest names missing in my ballot would be A-Rod. Obviously he has the numbers. Manny Ramirez has the numbers. I think Andy Pettit, especially in his career in the postseason, he should be in there. And Carlos Beltran. I think he did so much in the baseball field. But all of those guys have a problem, which is either stereo allegations or cheating allegations. We've talked about this in the past in 4 years now that we've done this pod. I subscribe to your rule. If you did some steroids or in this case cheating like Beltran, I'm gonna make you wait. I'm gonna make you wait. I'm gonna make you wait until your final year and then vote you then. I feel like that's not. It's if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. But this is kind of like some may call it a passive aggressive stand, but a stand nonetheless that I
It's
think
a penalty.
yes, as a penalty.
It's the cost of doing business for doing steroids or PEDs or whatever.
You're gonna wait. You're gonna wait in line. There's no fast pass here for you. And for me, with Manny Ramirez, honestly, I don't think I would ever vote for him because he got caught after there was drug testing in place multiple times. So I don't think I could actually vote for Manny Ramirez. I think I could vote for A-Rod. I don't think I could vote for Manny Ramirez. I don't know if you see it that same way.
Yeah, so I still have some time to think about that because I am going to continue my rule that I made up and say, hey, I'm going to make all these guys wait until the 10th year and then make a determination on each and every one of them. Manny Ramirez is in his 8th year. Andy Pettitte is in his 6th year. Alex Rodriguez is in his 3rd year. So I'm going to hold off, not judgment, but discussion on them until that time comes. As it stands right now, I probably would vote for both Alex Rodriguez and Manny Ramirez, but I don't want to quite have that conversation just yet, if that makes sense. I still want to squeeze out those couple years from them. And same thing with Carlos Beltran as well. I would vote for Carlos Beltran, but he's got a long way to go before he's getting my vote based on what happened on the field.
Exactly. Yeah. With Beltran, I would need to revisit it probably in the 9th or 10th year. But yeah, I think he's got the numbers, but I feel like that's a penalty. That's kind of a something at least that you could do in order to kind of, do your stand, make your stand.
Now,
sort of thing.
On your ballot, and I don't know how you went about filling out these names in these check marks, but who was in a hypothetical world, who would, if you could only cast one vote this year, who would it be? Or who was the first guy on the ballot that you was like, yep, no question about it, I'm check marking that one and then moving on to these other names here?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think Adrian Beltré just kind of popped up and it's kind of like, yeah, you have to. I think there are two types of Hall of Famers. The Hall of Fame is a museum. It's a museum. Let's never forget that. So in a museum, you're trying to tell a story, the narrative. Like, can you tell this baseball story without mentioning Adrian Beltré? I feel like he was such a big name, but you could tell the baseball narrative without Adrian Beltré.
Right.
But there's another type of Hall of Famer, which is your numbers. Are they there? Your accolades. And Adrian Beltré has all of them. He has anything and everything that you'd want as a baseball player. So I feel like there are two camps of Hall of Famers. You might be able to talk about baseball from the year 2000 till 2017 when he played, without mentioning once Adrian Beltré. But the numbers speak for themselves. This guy is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's right up there in the Mike Schmidt, Eddie Matthews category. You can't argue with 94 career WAR and 3,000 hits and all the other mentions with him as well. And I think ultimately he will get knocked in as a first ballot guy. So there it is, your list: Bobby Abreu, Adrian Beltré, Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, Joe Mauer, Francisco Rodriguez, Gary Sheffield, Omar Vizquel, and Billy Wagner. Any other final thoughts on your ballot before we move along to mine?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Todd Helton with the Rockies, you have to stop doing that stupid penalty about the Rockies. Like, it's a baseball stadium. If you have the penalty against every Rockies player, then I need.
Then no Rockies players are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Well, I guess Larry Walker's now in there. And here's the other thing too about that rule or that, idea or that asterisk is you do play half your games in other ballparks as well outside of Coors Field. And I know his numbers were notably stronger at home than away, but I think that's the case for most hitters, is that you're going to do better in your home ballpark than in your away ballpark. I guess you'd have to run some sort of equation or algorithm or metric to figure out, okay, how much better are Todd Helton's home numbers versus away numbers in comparison to other Hall of Famers. Like, you could go down a huge rabbit hole with that, but I mean, the overall numbers, and I also give him the added bonus of playing in one uniform his entire career. That yes, does mean a little something to me as well.
Yeah, agreed. The one team thing, I know it might not mean to anybody, and we might sound like boomers here, but yeah, I agree with you. The one team thing is, I think, if the integrity clause gets used negatively, and we always argue like, oh, wasn't it? Why isn't it ever used positively, the integrity clause? I think something like the integrity clause is, did you do it all in one team? I think you get bonus points for that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, we will get to my ballot, but first we have to tell the audience something very, very important, and that is this. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel. They are America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So go ahead and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON, to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, they are the official partner of the NFL, and I'll repeat it again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON. Okay, getting to my Hall of Fame ballot. I'll throw it up there on the board. This is who I would be voting for if I actually had a vote, which I don't and probably never will. But here's who I have. I am voting for Bobby Abreu, which I think is going to bring some joy and glee to Ulises right there. Adrian Beltré, Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, Joe Mauer, Gary Sheffield, Chase Utley, and Billy Wagner. Okay. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I technically could vote for 2 more guys, but I'm electing not to. Now, I did have Francisco Rodriguez checked, but I unchecked him because I am doing something a little bit differently. I have given some thought about the character clause, and I guess I am also permitting that to off-the-field incidents and accusations and craziness, if you will. Yeah. So we know about Omar Vizquel's situation and scenario, but Francisco Rodriguez also has a littered and peppered history of domestic violence and other incidents. On the field, he is absolutely a Hall of Famer. I'm actually kind of shocked and surprised that he doesn't get more vote, more love, and more conversation, because if we're going to vote Billy Wagner in the Hall of Fame just based on the field performance, you also have to vote Francisco Rodriguez in the Hall of Fame. I mean, just look at the number of saves and what he did to help the Angels win a World Series back in 2002 as well. He won as many games as, I know we're not big on wins, but he played a integral role in the Angels winning that thing. Additionally, I mean, there were multiple years where he was like top 5 in Cy Young voting as a reliever, and having the record for most saves in a single season. I think he should eventually get in. I'm just nicking him and giving him, along with Omar Vizquel, off the field penalties, and then I'm giving guys like Alex Rodriguez and Manny Ramirez and others, Carlos Beltran, on the field penalties. So I'm going to make them wait it out a little bit.
Makes 100% sense, Kev. I mean, I think littered is a very good word to throw with the situation there with K-Rod. You know, you go back to the first segment when I said, are the numbers there, or you're either you have to tell the baseball story, the baseball narrative between those years, and can you omit that player, or do you have to talk about that player? I think you have to talk about Francisco Rodriguez. You know, not only because of that 2002 season when you're talking about the World Series, and he's a kid. That was actually his first nickname was Kid Rodriguez when he was coming up from Venezuela. But then it evolved into K-Rod because of so many strikeouts. Like that's a you know, we all the rods we've heard them all.
Yes,
It's so cool when you're a pitcher and your nickname is literally the strikeout. Like it doesn't get much cooler than that. You know, he kind of made up the whole running, sprinting from the bullpen into the mound. Like he was a whole thing. The glasses when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
He was a whole entity. He was a whole character on there. And you're right, top 5 in all saves. Like, what do you want your closer to do? You want him to close games. You want him to get that save. So when you're top 5 in that category, that makes up the most important thing for a closer, it's right there. But I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from with the stuff off the field. 100% agree with you. Same with Vizquel. I understand where you're coming from. Billy Wagner, the numbers are there and they're very impressive.
Mm-hmm. He is 6th all-time in saves, 2.31 career ERA, under 1 WHIP, in the rare lefty closer.
I mean, just, you know what? Out of all of those things, the one that got me the most was the WHIP under 1.
Mm-hmm.
This guy played almost like 20 years, man. A WHIP under 1 from a reliever. That's so fantastic. That is so fantastic. But I think there's a name there in the middle of the column that I think we should talk about because he is a new name. And I'm glad that we both saw this guy play from his rookie year onto his last year. And he made a difference, I think, in both of our lives as baseball fans. And that's Joe Mauer. I'm glad that we both agree that Joe Mauer is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Just big picture, 30,000 foot view. He was a career 306 hitter, and his 55.2 career WAR ranks 7th among catchers. Every other catcher in the top 10 in that WAR, top 10 WAR catchers, is in the Hall of Fame. And I know that, later in his career, he was, playing less catcher, but his peak was just about, he was a rarity. And I think that it's hard to tell the baseball story without what Joe Mauer brought to the table. MVP as well, 6-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove. And again, call us boomers, don't call us boomers, playing with the Minnesota Twins his entire career, 15 years, adds a little extra punch. And the fact that little bonus action, again, not saying it adds a ton of weight to the Hall of Fame conversation and discussion, but born and raised in the St. Paul, Minnesota area. So literally a hometown kid having that kind of impact on an organization and a franchise. And I mentioned MVP, 6-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, also a 5-time Silver Slugger and 3-time batting champion. Not very often you see a catcher hit 347 and 365 and 328.
No, those are ridiculous numbers. Those are the numbers you put up on playing MLB The Show when you have it on easy level. That is ridiculous. And there is the story of how he apparently took less money to stay with the Twins, just because he and you never really do see that, especially when you're talking about a player in that caliber that could have demanded much more money. Again, he made his money. Don't get me wrong. He made a lot of money, but he probably could have made more if he hadn't done that signed that extension with them. So good for him. Yeah, I feel like he's getting a little bit knocked around by some people. And I just don't understand that Joe Mauer is not a Hall of Famer section of baseball fans. I don't know what else you would have to do. I think some of the knock is, he did quit catching for a few years before he actually retired. So I understand that, but like the accolades are there. I mean, everything else is there. And like, it's not like he quit because he was bad or because he became ineffective. The dude had so many concussions. Like they were like literally saying like, you cannot do this anymore. If you do this, you will no longer play baseball again. So he made the smart choice and moved to first base and got to DH a few times as well. Obviously, I don't think that should be a knock against him at all.
No, I'm with you there. So it'll be really interesting to see how the voting shakes out. I don't think he would be a ballot Hall of Famer. If I had to ballpark it, I don't know where you see it, but maybe 30, 40, 50% his first year, and then maybe years 2, 3, 4, he takes that jump and that bump up.
I'm hoping at least 30% for him, and then you can. That's a really good starting position for him to get 9 more years in the ballot and hopefully get that 75%. I do think though, when you look at this ballot, Kevin, and we talked about it on the first segment, Beltran, Bartolo Colon, you've got let me see another one, Andy Pettit, Manny Ramirez, A-Rod. If you add guys that have stuff off the field, Francisco Rodriguez, Gary Sheffield, some allegations, Omar Vizquel.
Yeah, and that's the thing here. I want to mention this about Gary Sheffield, hometown kid. I am voting for him because he's in his final year on the ballot, year number 10 for him. He got 55% of the vote last year, and I think the numbers speak for themselves. Over 500 homers, 9-time All-Star, 5-time Silver Slugger. Let's remember, Yandy Diaz got his first Silver Slugger. Gary Sheffield did that 5 times, So, but look at the your point is well taken. That there's a lot of ickiness on the 2024 Hall of Fame ballot.
There's a lot of ickiness. So, like when you look at a guy like Joe Mauer, I think as a voter you have to be like, wow, that's a breath of fresh air. This guy was as clean as it gets. Like he was just a blue-collar dude. Like he just went to work. Like I feel like that should give him a bump due to the comrades that are around him on the ballot. And you could potentially see his percentage on a first year go higher than in other years with other names on the ballot that didn't have so much trouble.
And I think maybe we have to just think about the catching position a little bit differently, maybe in the mold of relievers where it's like, you want that high WAR, but you can't look at it in the same vein as an outfielder or a middle infielder or whatever it may be, because just the tools of ignorance, the wear and tear of that position, your window might, be 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then you're out of there. And then there's going to be the decline in the downfall, especially if you play clean. So I think that's something where, again, if he's within the, top 10 career WAR of all catchers, maybe that says something that, it's not an easy thing to do to have such a long lasting, sustainable career at that position. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into account as well. So just a couple other quick notes. Andrew Jones, I'll give him a vote. I'll throw him a bone in his 7th year on the ballot. 434 career homers. As we know, one of the greatest defensive center fielders in history. But after he turned, 30, 31, there was a downfall from there. Chase Utley, a little bit of maybe a surprise, I suppose, but again, not to be a slave to WAR here, but 64.5 career WAR is close to the average for a Hall of Fame second baseman. And I think, well, let me ask you, Ulises, do you think Chase Utley will eventually get in the Hall of Fame? Or is it kind of up in the air?
I do not think so. I do not think so. I think he'll be close. I think he's like a forever 30-something% guy.
Okay.
I feel
so
like
he might be like like how, not saying this is right or wrong, but how I guess the voters are perceiving Bobby Abreu. Maybe that's how Chase Utley is, where Abreu in his 5th year now, he is at 15% of the vote.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be like that. I don't, again, in the bucket of, can you tell the story of baseball without Chase Utley? I think you can. And are the numbers there? Yeah, I think they're very close to being there, if not there. But I don't know. I feel like he got some the polish wore off in his later years when he slid. I think, was it at second base to, was it Flores? Was it?
I think, yeah.
Or no, it wasn't Flores, but it was somebody else. And whoever that was, I think they never actually played ever again, or were not the same ever again. Like, I feel like that was considered dirty in the baseball.
Well, now that you bring it up, I might have to amend my vote, because I don't know if that's, quite to the extent of, character flaw as PEDs and domestic violence, but it is something that you have to think about and take into account for sure.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't in the playoffs. Like, he got hit the next at bat that he was able to get there. Like, the Mets were pretty ticked off, and obviously the pitcher was thrown out and all that. I wish I had that a little bit clearer in my head, but I have the big picture that I think that could have rusted the Chase Utley image. But maybe voters are completely past that and look beyond that.
Yeah, and maybe it's something where I have a little bit of bias in the sense of course, he did win a ring in 2008 against the Rays, and those were kind of formidable baseball years for myself as a fan, as a teen, and growing up. And it was like Chase Utley. Like, when he was an all-star 5 consecutive years from 2006 to 2010, like that is pretty impactful when, you're somebody that's growing up and following the game. So maybe I'm a little bit, biased in that respect, but that'll be a name to watch going forward as well. Now, also on the all-star front, are we in agreement that as much as we love Big Game James, that he will fail to get 5% of the vote to remain on the ballot in 2025?
I will answer that by saying Johan Santana, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, Carlos Delgado, almost a 500 home run hitter, they did not get 5% of the vote, and they were out on the first ballot. So big game James Shields, I think, is going to have a tough time.
Unfortunately, as much as we love the fact that he did so much in a Rays uniform and he was so durable you can each year you can just pencil him in for 200 innings basically.
And again, let's I think people get a little bit jaded here, like, oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Like, that's not an insult. Like, Hall of Famer is a Hall of Fame. Like, that's like the elite of the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, put it in context here. There's probably nobody on the Rays roster right now that is going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, exactly. And, when you look at what Big Game James could do, man, like, oh my God, we would kill right now. All Rays fans would kill for a James Shields in the rotation for 2024. My gosh, we would all be like, oh, we're fine. We're going to go for the division. We wouldn't have podium episodes of like, should they trade Tyler Glass now? What's the depth like?
Yeah.
Nah, you'd be like, nah, we got James Shields and he's going to give us 200 innings, man. It's going to be fine with a 3-something ERA. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was for sure. And I think when Topkin called him up and was like, hey, how does it feel to be on the Hall of Fame ballot? Classic James Shields, California kid. He's like, I'm stoked. It's awesome. It's sweet. It's rad, man. So yeah, that's good for him. And, I think if I recall, 16th round draft pick as well, out of the same high school as Tyler Glass now, I should note there. All right. So wrapping this episode up, we gave your ballot, my ballot, speaking in real world terms here, who do you actually think gets inducted this coming year?
I think Adrian Beltré is the surest one of them all. I think
Okay.
Adrian Beltré is going to get in. It'll be tough for Gary Sheffield if maybe he pulls 20% more.
Yeah, he's got some work to do. He was at 55%.
I think Billy Wagner could sneakily get in there too.
In his 9th year, he was at 61% last year, 68.1% last year.
So yeah, I think those two names would be the likeliest. Do you agree?
Yeah, and then I would also add, I don't know if you forgot, but Helton, he was at 72.2%. So
he's making it. Yeah,
he's making it.
He's going in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would think, it could be 3 between Helton, Wagner, and Adrian Beltré. I just think, Gary Sheffield, probably the PD situation surrounding him probably doesn't help his cause, and he does have a lot of work to do. So that'll be something to look at and watch for. Might have to ask Evan Klosky as well what his Hall of Fame ballot would look like later on in this week if we get a chance to have him on. In the meantime, want to hear your all's thoughts either in the comments or email us. We love the emails, lockdownrays@gmail.com. Give us your reasons why someone should or should not be included in the voting, and maybe if you just want to give what your picks would be as well, we'll accept that and take that. So there we go. Hope you all enjoy this episode and future episodes of the Locked On Rays podcast. Stay safe, and we will talk to you tomorrow.